10 years of practicing the wrong thing. Okay, so I had a client that actually passed through the program who told me before we started that he'd been trading for over 10 years now. He was an engineer, a very senior guy, ran one of the largest plants in the country. The kind of person whose reports went to the VP and sometimes higher, to the ministers. He's very meticulous, disciplined, and he did his homework on time every single time. Now, when he joined the program, he showed me his trading journal. Screenshots organized by date, notes on every single position. The methodology of someone who took work seriously. Then I asked him a simple question. What have your results been over those 10 years? Now, he went quiet. Now, that silence is the most common answer I get when I ask that specific question. And it's the reason I'm doing this episode today. That's because most people in the Caribbean who tell themselves they've been trading for years haven't actually been trading. They've been doing something else. They just don't know what to call it. So I'm Tyrone, and this is the Caribbean Capitalist. All right, so welcome to the Caribbean Capitalist. I'm Tyrone Stewart, founder of Summit Solutions Caribbean, an FTMO funded trader with over 17 years in finance and business. This show is for the Caribbean professional who has really done everything right, built a career, saved responsibly, raised a family, and quietly knows that the pension and the local currency salary simply can't be enough. New episodes every Tuesday. Okay, so if you've ever told somebody you trade at a Christmas line, at a work function, to a friend who asks you what you do in your spare time, and the conversation moved on before they even asked about your results, today might be for you. And if you spend years sitting at a screen, taking positions, watching charts, telling yourself you're getting better at this, today's episode probably is especially for you. All right, so let me come back to our engineer. Now, he's a real man. I'm not going to share his name out of respect for his privacy, but I'll tell you what kind of operator he was. He worked at one of the major energy companies in Trinidad. He ran one of the plants of significant scale, the kind of facility that when something goes wrong inside it, the country notices. Now, his daily work involved managing systems where failure had real consequence, where the documentation had to be perfect because regulators read it, where his reports went to executives whose decisions affected the national economy. That is the kind of professional discipline he brought into trading. Now, when he came into my program, he showed me his setup. Years of screenshots, detailed entry and exit notes, a trading journal that looked like it could have been audited by an accountant. He had built the operational scaffolding of a serious operator, and he had nothing to show for it. When I asked him about his results, and I'm very specific when I ask this question, because vague questions get vague answers. When I asked him what his actual return on capital had been over those 10 years, he simply couldn't give me a clean number. He had winning months, he had losing months. Some years he was up, and some years he was down. But over the full decade, when we added it up, he was essentially flat. Not bleeding capital like an obvious gambler would be, but not building wealth either. 10 years of discipline and practice, net zero. Now, here's the thing I want you to sit with. He wasn't doing anything wrong by the standards he'd set for himself. He showed up every day. He followed his rules. He locked his trades. He reviewed his performance. But the rules he was following didn't work. And he'd been reinforcing them, practicing them more deeply, refining them, executing them more cleanly for 10 years. That's not trading. That's something else entirely. Now, let me tell you what I think it is. Imagine an employer who paid you nothing for 10 years. You showed up to the office every single day. You did your work. You took notes. You attended meetings. And at the end of every pay period, your bank account stayed exactly where it was. Now, would you call that a job? No. You call it for what it was, charity. You donated your time and attention to something that wasn't returning any value to you. Now imagine the opportunity cost. If you're an engineer earning $100 an hour at your day job, and you're sitting at the trading screen for 3 hours every day after work, you're not just earning zero from the trading, you're foregoing tens of thousands of US dollars a month in earnings you could have generated by doing anything else productive with that time. 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, 750 hours annually at $100 an hour, that's 75,000 US dollars a year in opportunity cost for 10 years. Now that is $750,000 of unpaid labor donated to something that returned absolutely nothing. That's not a hobby. That's not even a bad business. A bad business at least teaches you something about why it failed. This is a charitable contribution to the market, made one trade at a time by a person who couldn't see what they were actually doing. Now, here's the part most people miss. And this is the part I want you to really hear. There's a fundamental difference between practicing a skill and practicing a broken system. When a barber starts out, he's clumsy. He nicks his skin, he cuts the lines uneven. But every head he shaves teaches him something. The skill compounds over time. After a year, he's better than he was. After 5 years, he's a craftsman. After 10 years, he's the man people in the neighborhood ask for by name. When a doubles man starts out, his channel filling is messy, his barra is uneven, his line moves slowly. But every customer he serves teaches him something. After a year, he's faster. After 5, he can serve a customer every minute. After 10 years, he's running the busiest stall in Sawa, or Kirab, with his son's train up beside him. That is what skill compounding looks like. Repetition plus correct technique over time equals mastery. But trading doesn't work like that if the technique is wrong. If you're practicing a broken method when it comes to trading, you're not getting better. You're getting better at executing a method that simply doesn't work. You're refining your ability to lose money efficiently. You're building muscle memory around behaviors that will keep you flat or in drawdown for the rest of your trading life. The barber who practices wrong technique for 10 years doesn't end up with one head shaved strangely. He ends up unemployed because the market for haircuts has standards, and the standards filter out people who don't develop real skill. On the other hand, the trader who practices wrong technique for 10 years doesn't end up flagged by anyone. The market doesn't tell you to stop. The broker doesn't call you and say, "Sir, your method isn't working. Perhaps consider something else, another career, perhaps." You just keep going. You keep refining, you keep journaling, you keep telling yourself that this year will be different. And the worst part, the part I see most often when clients come to me after years of this, is that the discipline you've built around the broken method becomes the obstacle to learning the correct one. You're not a blank slate. You're a person with 10 years of investment in being right about how trading works. Unlearning that is harder than learning from zero. And this is why I tell prospects plainly that experience in trading is often a liability rather than an asset. Someone who's never traded before can be taught our system in 60, maybe even 30 days. But someone who's been trading their own method for a decade often takes longer, because we're not just teaching them the rules, we're asking them to admit that the last few years of their financial discipline was directed at the wrong target. That admission is hard. It costs more than a program fee. It costs ego. It costs the story you've been telling yourself and other people. And until you're willing to pay that cost, no system in the world would work. So, before you commit to trading as a path, whether with the Summit trading system or any other methodology, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. What have my actual results been? Not how many trades you've taken, not how many books you've read on trading, not how many YouTube videos you've watched, not how meticulous your journaling is. What's in your account at the end of the period compared to what was in it at the beginning, minus the capital you've been injecting? If the answer is about the same or less, you've not been trading. You've been practicing something else. And whatever it is, it deserves to be called by its real name. So if any of this lands for you, if you've been carrying the weight of years of practice without results, and you're not sure what to do about it, I built a 12-question assessment that maps where you are right now and tells you what your realistic next step looks like. It's free. It takes about 4 minutes to do. You'll come out the other side with a clearer sense of whether trading is actually the right path for you, or whether what you've been doing needs to be called by a different name. All right, so that's the Caribbean Capitalist. I'm Tyrone Archie Stewart. New episode every Tuesday. If today's episode mattered to you, send it to someone who you know has been trading for years without showing you their results. Don't accuse them of anything. Maybe just send it to them. They'll know whether they need to hear it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.